Good evening, everyone. And I would like to thank you for joining us as we have our Parent and Family Reopening Virtual Town Hall to discuss our transition to hybrid instruction, which includes our in-person as well as our 100% virtual learners. I'm very appreciative of you joining us this evening. My hope is to be very respectful of your time and to limit our presentation to 1 hour. We are very, very vested in making sure that we have an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have um, and to turn them around for you in an FAQ within the next 24 hours. Um, it goes to note that this presentation is being recorded and will be available for your viewing on the Cheltenham School District website as well as our Myers website. Again, I don't want you to feel pressed as if you have to write everything down. As always, you can reach me via email or Class Dojo, and I hope to respond to your questions or inquiries in a timely fashion. With that, we have quite a bit of information that we would like to convey to you. So we're going to begin and move rather briskly. Uh, One of the first things that I would like to do is to introduce our panel of presenters. We have Miss Kimball Dunlap, who is our certified nurse and COVID nurse liaison. We have Nurse Nancy Sanborn, who is the school nurse at Myers Elementary School. And we also have our school counselor, Miss Carly Siegel, who will be joining us for this presentation. With that, let's begin. The goal of our presentation, bringing our Myers community together to discuss the transition to hybrid learning, is to make sure that we work together as a community to make sure that this transition produces a rich academic experience for all learners, for in-person learners as well as virtual learners. And I cannot stress enough that those who are in person and those that are virtual learners are equally as important, and we are vested in making sure that all learners, regardless of their location, receive a quality learning experience that is rich, that is welcoming, that is a community experience. It goes without saying that the experience that we're about to embark on in February is not going to be school as usual, and it will be different based upon the circumstances related to COVID-19. But we believe that we can work together to make sure that we can return students to the building safely and that students who are learning 100% virtually can engage in a meaningful way. We're going to talk about the safety measures and procedures that are put in place in order to ensure such an experience for all children. And we'll go over some of the daily procedures, routines, and questions that parents might have about just daily functioning activities. There's quite a host of things that we want to get to. I try to embed as many images into this presentation as possible to give you a visual of some of the things that we will be discussing. And based upon this lengthy list, we're going to talk about everything from our overall enrollment all the way down through dismissal procedures. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer as many questions as you might have for you to feel comfortable and to feel knowledgeable about the partnership that we're embarking on in February to bring students back in a hybrid model. Let's take a look at this graphic here. This graphic shows that based upon our registration survey information that we presented to parents to fill out, that out of the 300 students that are enrolled at Myers, we have about a 50-50 split of students who are registered for in-person and students that are registered for 100% virtual. That is significant because that lends credence to our mission to make sure that all students, regardless of their location, receive the same quality supports and services, regardless of their location. This graph also shows a little bit of the breakdown by grade, looking at the total enrollment and comparing that to what students will be in person and which students will be 100% virtual. As I stated earlier, we understand that this will not be school as normal and that we're putting several things in place in order to ensure student safety. And this will be different for not only for our students and our parents, but for our staff as well. However, as I stated, I'm going to repeat this repeatedly. I'm going to say this repeatedly. We are really invested in making sure that we have a rich experience for all learners. And part of that is making sure that we have an excellent school community. This is something that we have been dedicated to ensuring since the beginning of this school year, and the virtual experience that we've all been on since August, and we're going to continue. Counselor Siegel, would you mind speaking briefly about how we're going to continue to establish and maintain community within our Myers family?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lytle. Again, my name is Carly Siegel, and it is my pleasure to serve as Myers School Counselor. Our goal is always to promote social and emotional well-being by providing school-wide initiatives to make our school climate as positive and fun as possible for all students. Though that has proved more challenging during our remote learning, and we will still be unable to do many of the regular school-wide activities that we're used to. We're going to continue to do our best to make our learning environment as engaging and rewarding as possible for both virtual and hybrid learners. We are a dedicated PBIS school, which means that we are committed to recognizing and rewarding student success at every level. We will continue our weekly school-wide student recognition. We'll also keep using Class Dojo and our school-wide positivity Padlet to praise and shout out each other's positive behavior and accomplishments. With the help of our 3rd and 4th grade student leaders, my student council students, we look forward to continuing to provide regular events that everyone can participate in safely, whether at home or at school. Coming up, we'll be celebrating Random Acts of Kindness Week in February. More details to come. And another school-wide Spirit Week in March, which is a student favorite, and other charitable events such as collection drives for local food banks and other organizations. Morning meetings and grade-wide town hall meetings will continue to be utilized to once again acknowledge student success and also engage students in important discussions such as our anti-racism initiative. As your student school counselor, I will continue to regularly deliver synchronous social emotional learning lessons, along with posting asynchronous social emotional learning materials in your students' Google Classrooms that you can access at any time. Please feel free to reach out to me via email or Class Dojo at any time if you have any social or emotional concerns for your child. I am more than happy to help out however I can.
Thank you, Counselor Siegel. Our next 2 slides are critical as well, as they relate directly to our processes and protocols for ensuring safety related to the pandemic. I'm going to ask our certified school nurse and COVID nurse liaison, Ms. Kimball Dunlap, and our school nurse, Ms. Nancy Sanborn, to address our Qualtrics health screening app, when kids should stay home, and discuss a little bit of the Myers health rooms.
Kimball, you want to talk about the Qualtrics?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kimball Dunlap. I am the certified nurse at the high school. I'm also basically the COVID liaison for the district. We have a new app that you will be using for your children to fill out prior to entering the school. It's called Qualtrics. Prior to the start of everyone returning to school on February 1st, you will be getting an email with the link that you will access daily prior to your student entering the building. It will be open 2 to 3 hours prior, so we ask so we can get all the children in the school with as little delay as possible, that you please fill out this app every day as soon as you're able in the morning. It's about 12 questions. It has to do with how your child is feeling that day. if it is pre-set up that if you answer questions yes, you may be prompted with a screen that'll tell you that you're denied entry. And what will happen at that point, if you do get that screen, you will be contacted by the school nurse of your building, Ms. Sanborn, to find out if your child is officially denied entry, or maybe there was a mistake in answering yes to a question. So typically you'll be get a screen that says, yes, you're free to enter. And so when you come to the school, your school administrators and people monitoring kids coming in the school will know that you're able to enter. If you're denied, it'll be a conversation with the nurse. And at that time, if it is deemed that you should see your healthcare provider, that will be the recommendations we will make at that time. So the Qualtrics app is coming out for the students, and you will get notification prior to the 1st of February via email from the administrative team at Central Admin.
Thank you, Nurse Dunlap.
You're welcome.
Nurse Sanborn and I would like to discuss with you what are some of the processes that are going to occur should a student experience some COVID symptoms during the school day. So first and foremost, if a student is experiencing COVID symptoms before the start of the day, I'm going to recommend that they stay home from school. And some of those symptoms vary, and I'm sure Nurse Sanborn could give you a better idea of what those symptoms are, but in the error on the side of precaution, if your child is not feeling well that day, based upon the circumstances that we are in, I think we should all err on the side of ensuring the safety of your child and others, and have the student remain home for the day. Nurse Sanborn or Nurse Dunlap, would you be able to give us an idea of what parents could look for when making that decision if the child might stay home for that day?
Okay. If your child has a temperature of 100.3 and above, if your child's coughing, shortness of breath, if your child has a loss of taste or smell, if they're experiencing headaches or any diarrhea or nausea.
Thank you, Nurse Sanborn. And those things are just indicators that parents can use to assess on their own whether they think they should keep their child home for the day. With that, if a child were to experience any COVID symptoms during the school day, it's very simple that teacher or staff member would be alerted by that child and contact the school nurse. The child would then be escorted to Health Room A. As I have stated in one of our earlier presentations, we do have multiple health rooms in order to see students that are experiencing a variety of symptoms and to keep students safe without crossing over of any ailments or anything that does not need to be communicated to other students. Student will be escorted to Health Room A. A full assessment will be completed by the nurse. Student's family will be contacted, and the student's family will be given paperwork for the doctor. A return date will be discussed. The nurse will follow up with the family the next day. And if the student is diagnosed with COVID, the school will follow the Montgomery County Health Guidelines. Just this gives you an idea of the process that will take place if your child will to be experiencing any symptoms during the school day. Nurse Sanborn or Nurse Dunlap, is there anything that you would like to add before I progress?
I would just like to quickly mention, and I know it doesn't affect a lot of kids in elementary school, that there is a travel restriction that if a child is 11 years old or older and the family travels outside of the state of Pennsylvania for longer than 24 hours, there is a quarantine and or a required test to come back to school. And that's for children over the age of 11, which sort of, I think fourth grade is sort of on the, I'm not sure what age group you're on, but just so that will affect just a few of your, if you're younger than 11, right now currently the health department does not require that quarantine if you travel out of state longer than 24 hours.
We've shared a lot of information about some pretty significant things to this point. I'd just like to remind you that we are recording this presentation so that if you need to go back and review it, you can find it at the end of the evening on our Myers School District webpage or on the Cheltenham webpage. In addition, I noticed that there are 3 questions in the question and answer portion of the Zoom meet. I will be answering those questions at the end of the presentation. If you do have a question, I would ask that you add it towards the end so that I can make sure I address it completely, or to leave space for it to be addressed as we go through our presentation. The instructional model, as we move into our hybrid learning, is very straightforward. There were a variety of options for instructional model. At one point, we considered a variety of 100% virtual. Would it be 2 groups coming back and forth on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday? But we have adopted the hybrid A model, which means there will be 1 group of students coming into the building on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And there will be a group of students who will be learning on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 100% virtually, joining that classroom as well. Wednesdays will remain asynchronous for all students. So if you have elected for your child to come in person, they will come into the building on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and they will be receiving instruction, synchronous instruction with their teacher, and so will the students who are 100% virtual. They will be receiving that same instruction at the same time, delivered by their teacher on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, with Wednesdays being an asynchronous day for everyone. If we look at a general overview of what the day will look like, it will match the day that we have on a typical day as relates to the hours. Our students will begin entering the building at 8:45 a.m. Our school day will go from 9 a.m. to 3:40. Based upon some of the safety precautions that we need to take in order to keep everyone safe, we are unable to have students accessing the playground or school grounds prior to the 8:45 admittance into the building. So to be clear, we're asking that students do not arrive much earlier than 8:45, which is the time that we will have students entering the building and reporting to their classroom. Once they're in their classrooms at about 9 o'clock, we'll start our morning meetings, which are the time for students to share how they feel, express themselves, talk about topics that are relevant to them, and for teachers to check in with students and for them to converse with one another. As typical, we will have lunch periods, which will be divided by grade, which will take place in the cafeteria. We will have breaks and recess throughout the day. We understand that it is a rather long day for students, so we have strategically placed recess and breaks throughout the day. And it goes worth noting that I want to note that we will have between 9 and 1:20 the bulk of our synchronous new instruction. But I want to be very clear that that 1:20 to 3:40, which was typically an asynchronous time, is not time that is time for busy work. The asynchronous time in the afternoon will be a continuation of the Common Core related instruction that was taking place earlier in the day. It will just be in an asynchronous format. It is not wasted time. It is not busy work. It is the work that students would be completing if it were a normal school day or a school atmosphere. During that time, students will be working asynchronously, whether they be in school or at home with the support of the teacher, and they will be able to receive assistance from the teacher. The teacher will still have office hours. Students that are at home will be able to engage with the teacher with questions related to their assignments by posting in the Google Meet, by posting on questions or comments on particular asynchronous assignments. Students may be asked at home to come and log back on to engage in enrichment, remediation, or extension assignments. But the afternoon is just as rich and meaningful as the morning. So we have one homogeneous school day, which is rich from beginning to end. And we'll start our staggered dismissal at about 3:40 p.m. each day. More details to come so that we can do that in a socially distanced and safe manner. I know this is difficult to see because of the size, but I put this here for a reason, because it shows the portion of the day, which is admit beginning at 8:45 to 9 o'clock. It shows plenty of breaks throughout the day for each grade. It shows afternoon recess for each grade. It shows what time lunches will be. And all of this information will be shared with you by your child's teacher. And it is relevant information whether the child is in person or a 100% virtual learner, being that they will be following the same schedule each day. Let's talk about some general safety protocols. We already talked about the Qualtrics app, which is an app that each parent will be asked to fill out for their child each day before school. It's a quick screener asking some general questions that are related to COVID to make sure that students are coming into the building healthy and that they are set up for success for a wonderful and successful day. It will be the parent's responsibility to fill out that form each and every day for each of their children. And there will be a response, as Nurse Kimball stated, that if questions are answered in a certain format, it will prompt you to take certain action, or you will receive a response from our school nurse team. Another general safety precaution is mask wearing. You'll notice that in the Cheltenham School District safety plan, all students and staff are required to wear a mask while on school grounds and on school property. While this is very important, we will also couple that with other things such as social distancing, instruction on cleanliness of hands, just so that students are not just given a mandate, which they are being given a mandate to wear a mask, but they'll be getting instruction as to why these things are important. They'll be given reinforcement and encouragement throughout the day as relates to mask wearing, social distancing, and safety protocols. Being that we're dealing with children that are of a young age from grades K through 4, we understand that mask and snack breaks will have to take place in the classroom throughout the day, based upon the time they arrive, the time of their lunch period, and the time of dismissal. There are 3 guiding principles that are at the core of our snack and mask break policy. We want to make sure that if a student takes their mask off to eat their snack, that they are 6 feet or more away from another child, that the amount of time that they have their mask off does not exceed 10 minutes, and that we minimize the number of students who have their mask off or who are taking mask breaks at one time. I'll say again, the general overall guiding principles of mask/snack breaks for in the classroom are that students are 6 feet or more apart when they are having their mask off for their snack or break, that they have their mask off for no more than 10 minutes, and that we minimize the number of students that have their mask off at one time. Of course, we will practice hand sanitization and hand washing as we move into these mask breaks and snack breaks. As I said, we're going to continue to reinforce and encourage social distancing and hand washing, which we've embedded into the systems in our school. We will have signage posted throughout our hallways, as well as school staff strategically placed throughout our building in order to discourage gathering of large groups in the hallways or in the bathrooms. We talked briefly about our 3 nursing locations. We have a nurse's room A, B, and C, or a main nurse's office, a student isolation room for students that might be experiencing symptoms related to COVID, and a staff isolation room for staff that might be experiencing such symptoms as well. And lastly, while we appreciate visitors and volunteers, that is not something that we can really afford to do at this time as a school and district. We want to make sure that those that are in the building are essential to teaching, learning, and student safety, and only essential visitors will be allowed into the building at this time. I'll go through a series of pictures just that students and staff will see. This is the screening form that the QR code to the right that staff will be utilizing daily to complete their screener before entering the building. And we have signs such as masks are required on all CSD property posted throughout our building. This is also a sign that you might see. We will be reinforcing the principles of clean, cover, and contain with our students and teaching them why these things are important as we expect these things of them in order to maintain their safety. Each classroom is equipped with a sink, paper towels, hand soap, and a wealth of hand sanitizer, which teachers will create systems to make sure that students maintain healthy hand hygiene throughout the day. In addition, teachers' desk will be outfitted with plexiglass. There will be hand sanitizer, disinfectant in the classrooms, alcohol baby wipes that kids can utilize in order to keep their space and their hands clean. We're anticipating a large number of students that will be arriving to school as walkers or as parent carpoolers. As noted on this image, we have 4 large buses that we are anticipating, 3 vans, but the majority of our students, 112, will be arriving or leaving school as walkers or through their parent transport. We're paying specific attention to that process, which I'll go into detail with, so that we can ensure a safe and expedient parent drop-off procedure each morning. You'll notice that this diagram shows the Myers School in the middle and the surrounding streets of Montgomery Avenue at the top of the screen, Glenwood Avenue to the right, and Mill Road towards the bottom portion of the screen. We will talk about the parent drop-off zone on Montgomery Avenue at the top, and we'll talk about our bus zone on Mill Road, and later we'll talk about the walker entry location in the 3rd and 4th grade schoolyard, which is in the center of the image. It goes without saying that it is necessary for parents to complete the screener form each and every day for their child. Students that do not have the health screener form completed will be facilitated in the cafeteria and will not be permitted into classroom until the time that the parent has been able to complete that form. We understand that this is not a form of punishment and that students will not be ostracized or meant to feel anything less than, but this is just a necessary precaution that we must take in order to ensure the safety of everyone. Parents, when we talk about our drop-off process, we are talking about 8:45 as the time when our doors will open and students will be able to begin gaining admittance into the building. We ask that parents not just drop off their child on Montgomery Avenue, but that they follow the procedure that we will outline as we move forward in this presentation. Again, I'll state that the schoolyard will not be available for player gatherings before or after school, and we appreciate the support of the Myers community in making sure that we can maintain that policy. Bussers will enter on Mill Road. As you can see from this diagram here, with the large green arrow that says bussers, those 4 buses will be the location where our 4 large school buses will park daily. Students that are on those buses will be met and greeted by a staff member who will confirm the completion of the health screener form. They will then walk up the stairway on Mill Road into the schoolyard, where they will gain entry through the class door. Our walkers. Our walkers will enter through the Mill Road stairway as well. And for those of you who might not be familiar with our school grounds, if a child is walking to school, Mill Road is at the bottom of our diagram. There's a stairway that is closest to the gym, closest to the 3rd and 4th grade schoolyard. Walkers will come up that stairway, enter into the schoolyard, and they will stand at our cones, which will be there, spaced 6 feet apart, where they will line up to gain entry into the building, and so that we can evaluate the completion of the Qualtrics health screening app and get them into the building in a quick and welcoming fashion. Once again, they will enter through Mill Road, and they will enter to the schoolyard. Through the class doors where they will enter. All of our walkers from grades K to 4 will follow this procedure. Our buses will be on Mill Road. Our parent carpool drop-off will be on Montgomery Avenue, and our walkers will enter the schoolyard through the Mill Road stairway closest to the large schoolyard. When we are talking about our parent drop-off lane, I would like to make sure that we take a look at this diagram. Talking about our parent carpoolers, if we look at the top road, which is Montgomery Avenue, you will notice that the red arrows indicate that the full length of Montgomery Avenue, all the way up to the center rail of the school, is where the car line will be. Within that line will be a certain parent drop-off zone. And I'm distinguishing between the two because in the interest of safety, we do not want students exiting out of their vehicles at the end of Montgomery Avenue nearest Mill Road. We would like students to stay in their vehicles and progress up Montgomery Avenue in the vehicles with the parents until they get into the drop-off zone, which will be about 6 cars in length. A staff member will greet the students at the car, at which time they will be welcomed to come out of their vehicles. We have left adequate space at the top of Montgomery Avenue where it's indicated pull up and pull away so that the car line will progress in an expedient manner. Parents, thank you for your cooperation in advance for keeping your child in the car until they reach the drop-off zone on Montgomery Avenue and then pulling up and pulling away so that the car line can continue. Again, once students are in that drop-off zone, they will be greeted by a staff member, welcomed out of their vehicle, and they will progress into the door where they will enter the building. These images are simply to indicate for you where this car line will be. And the large cones at the bottom of this image, the large orange cones, represents where the drop-off zone will start. Parents will let their children out of the vehicle when they're greeted, and you'll notice that there's ample space after the car line for cars to pull up, which will help the process proceed at a rapid pace. These images are of Montgomery Avenue from various perspectives of the carpool lane. You will notice that the ramp that is on the left side of this image is where students in grades K2 will get out of their vehicles when prompted, and they have just a very short walk to that ramp where they will be socially distanced and supported by a staff member as they are supported in entering the building and getting to their classrooms. Here's another image of where all K2 students that are in the carpool lane will go to enter the building. Again, we have a busser location, which is on Mill Road, a location for all walkers, grades K4, but we're specifically talking about our carpool lane, which will be on Montgomery Avenue. And this specific entrance, which is on Montgomery Avenue, will be for students in grades K through 2. As it relates to students in the carpool lane in grades 3 through 4, they will enter on Montgomery Avenue at the teacher's parking lot door entrance. You'll see from these images, if you're familiar with our building, they will get out at the drop-off location and walk just slightly up Montgomery Avenue, where they will enter the door on the left side of Myers Elementary School, typically utilized by teachers to enter the building. Of course, on the sidewalk, there will be cones spaced 6 feet apart so that students can socially stand in a socially distanced way while waiting to enter the building upon verification of the completion of their Qualtrics health screening form. Let's talk about our hallways. We're invested in making sure that we have minimal traffic in our hallways and that students wear their mask whenever they're in our building, and especially when they're transitioning in the hallways. We plan on having signage posted, and there are hand sanitizer dispensers posted throughout our building in key locations so that students can maintain healthy hand hygiene. This screen talks about how we were very intentional about minimizing students in the hallway, about establishing directionality within our building, and posting signs to remind students to be socially distant and to follow safety guidelines. These images are examples of some of the directionality signage that we've put on the floor. This is in order to maintain social distancing, to eliminate crowding, and to establish directionality in our hallways so that students will know what 6 feet apart from each other looks like and which side of the hallway they should be walking on. In addition to student areas, the main office has those same sorts of signs in order to guide staff and students in maintaining social distance from one another. It goes without saying that sharing water fountains at this time is not a best practice as it relates to health. So all of our water fountains have been disconnected, and we have added additional hand sanitizer dispensers throughout our building for student and staff use. As it relates to our bathroom usage, we understand that we want to make sure that students do not gather in large numbers in the bathroom. We have strategically placed hall monitors to support students and to remind and encourage them to wear their mask and to remain socially distant. We have created a bathroom schedule for students in 3rd and 4th grade so that they can be supervised by their teacher when attending the bathroom, and to eliminate overcrowding in the hallways and in the bathrooms. Students in grades K through 2 have bathrooms in their classrooms and will be facilitated and supervised by their teachers as it relates to washing their hands, and thankfully don't have to travel as far to utilize the bathroom in a safe manner. We understand that though there is a bathroom schedule for students in grades 3 and 4, that students will have to use the bathroom outside of those scheduled times, and it will be permitted for them to use the bathroom as needed. And we've structured systems, signage, and personnel to be in those hallways in order to maintain such safety for students. As we talk about our lunch periods, we will follow our normal lunch schedule, meaning that each grade will have their own lunch period. Classes will arrive to the cafeteria in a staggered manner to avoid crowding. Students will enter the cafeteria through specific doors, and they will sanitize their hands before leaving their classroom to go to the lunchroom and upon arrival in the cafeteria. Of course, students will be seated socially distant from one another, all facing the same direction while eating. The following images bring life to exactly what we plan to do as a staff. This diagram shows a setup of our cafeteria. All of the tables that you see, which are gray, are 12 feet in length. Students will sit where the X's are indicated, all facing the same direction, so that they can eat their lunch in a safe manner without their mask on. Once again, each table is 6 feet apart from one another, that they will be sitting at least 12 feet away from one another, and that everyone will be facing the same direction. Here's a look at what that diagram looks like in actuality in our cafeteria. You'll notice that the diagram and the picture that I've taken parallel one another, and that the yellow marks that you see on each seat are indicators to children as to where to sit, all sitting on the same side of the table and sitting apart from one another. These images just show some of the signage that we have in order to have students stand when they go to get their lunch, where they are to line up for recess, and to remind them of directionality, social distancing, and that just to give them a reminder to use proper hand hygiene, to wear their mask. We tried to post these signs and reminders throughout our building and our cafeteria. Students will have recess daily after lunch. Before transitioning to recess, students will be given hand sanitizer. It's very important that I note that students will only participate in recess with the students that are in their classroom, and that each classroom is assigned to a location in our schoolyard where they will interact only with their peers in their immediate class. Students will not be permitted to share materials with one another, but they will be permitted to utilize playground equipment such as swings and slides, which are cleaned routinely. As I stated, only with students that are in their cohort. An example of that would be if we were to have 3 first grade classes in the lunchroom at the same time, they will be seated in a socially distanced manner. After they eat their lunch and reaffix their mask, sanitize their hands, they will be escorted as a class to one of the locations that you see on our screen, where they will engage with the peers in their class only in one of our recess locations. Each class will have a separate location, and those locations will rotate on a daily basis. I've received many questions about what the classroom setups look like. So I wanted to give you a few images about what classrooms look like, as our effort was to maintain 6 feet social distancing between each student. So this is an image of a classroom, and I'll show you 2 more images so that you might get a glimpse of what it might look like in your child's room. In this image, you'll notice that the desks are butted up against each other, but that those desks, both of them, are for one child. There's a sticker on the desk on the right side that says, "Do not sit here." And that desk would be a place where that one student could put extra belongings should they need to. Here's another image. I believe this is a 3rd grade classroom, showing how the classroom would look and how the desk will be spaced out to ensure student safety. And another image of another classroom showing the same. As I stated earlier, our day is divided into 2 portions, but it's one homogeneous, meaningful instructional day for both in-person and virtual students, with 9 a.m. to 1:20 being the bulk of our synchronous new instruction, and in 1:20 to 3:40 being the time where students can receive enrichment, remediation, extension, and support in the areas of math, reading, science, and social studies, as well as social emotional learning, with the support of their teacher through asynchronous assignments that are an extension of the learning. I want to reiterate that it is not busy time or lackluster time, but it is instructional time in the afternoon, just in an asynchronous format. One of the questions that we've received at a very high frequency is, what will it be like for students as it relates to them receiving instruction in art, library, gym, and music? Students will continue to receive instruction in art, library, gym, and music. They will have the same special for a 2-week period. The art, library, and music teacher will travel to their homeroom class in order to deliver instruction in their classroom. However, students that are scheduled to receive gym or physical education will travel to the gymnasium in order to receive instruction. The gymnasium allows for social distancing, and there are no surfaces that need to be cleaned and sanitized in between classes. And students need the ability to jump and move and run, which is one of the reasons why we felt comfortable utilizing the gym for instruction for physical education, while art, library, and music will take place in students' homerooms, with the teacher coming to the students instead of the students going to the teacher. Some things to be reminded of. And these are some of the things that parents might want to take a look at as it relates to preparing their child for coming into the school, and possibly for some of our 100% virtual students who have these things already. Each child will be needed, it will be necessary for each child to bring a school district Chromebook to school each day. Students that are 100% virtual will need a device as well, as they are using them now. If they are a student that is staying at home, they might be comfortable utilizing their own device. However, students that are coming into the building should be utilizing a school district issued Chromebook. I also encourage parents for 100% virtual learners or those who are coming in the building to visit the Myers website and revisit the school supply list, which is posted there. Some staples that you should depend on or count on your student needing or your child needing each and every day are their Envisions and Wonders workbooks, whether they be in school or at home. Headphones are also a valuable resource. And for those coming into the building, a water bottle is something that would be great for each student to have, being that our water fountains are disabled. It goes without saying that, as I stated earlier, this is not necessarily school as normal, so there will be very minimal, if any, I'll say it this way, there will be no sharing of supplies as it relates to students engaging in learning in their classrooms. And each of their materials and their supplies will be kept at their desk so that they could access them easily without having to share with one another. We will allow the use of class cubbies as directed by teachers in grades K through 2. We recognize that students in kindergarten, first and second grade might not have the ability to carry so many things back and forth each and every day, primarily in grades K and 1. Students in grades 3 and 4 will not utilize cubbies or lockers because the space in the classroom does not allow us to utilize them safely. I encourage all parents who have children in grades K, 1, and 2 to reach out to their teacher if they plan on coming into the building for in-person instruction, just to get further guidance on whether cubbies will be utilized or whether students will keep all of their materials at their seats. It goes without saying that if cubbies are utilized, that we will maintain all of our social distance and safety precautions as students utilize those cubbies. There will be no cubby sharing. There will only be one student at a cubby at a time. And if more than one student is at a cubby, they will be 6 feet apart from one another while gathering any materials that they might need. We encourage students to take everything home with them on Tuesdays so that they can have them in order to complete their asynchronous assignments on each asynchronous Wednesday. Our dismissal procedures. We are ascertaining more information about how many walkers and carpoolers we have, which directly will inform our dismissal process. As we get more information from parents regarding walkers and carpoolers, we will divulge and share our dismissal process with parents and families. If there is a need for an early dismissal, we encourage parents to notify the teacher in advance if their child is in the building. They can contact the teacher through email, through Class Dojo. They can call the secretary. And we really would like to receive notification of an early dismissal by 12 p.m. unless there is an emergency. If a parent needs to come into the building in order to pick up the child, when they get there, they can come to the foyer or the main entrance, at which time they will be greeted by the secretary who will bring the child to the door in order to fulfill our dismissal procedures, such as signing out, verification of parent ID, and dismissal of the student. Also on this slide are some of our recent publications regarding reopening. You can see here the links for our parent and family newsletter, the Did You Know edition. We have our Myers video about reopening, part 1 and 2, and a link to the Cheltenham School District's Health and Safety Plan. Just a reminder that we will have a rewind of the things that we discussed at our January 28th Parent Town Hall number 2, and that any and all questions can be emailed to me at jlytle@cheltenham.org. Another reminder that this video in its entirety will be posted on our Cheltenham School District webpage, as well as the Myers School page for your viewing. And at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can answer any questions that might be in the Q&A. As we address questions in the Q&A, we will also utilize all questions in the Q&A to make an FAQ, which we hope to turn around within 24 hours. That FAQ will be published for parents as well on the school district's webpage, as well as the Myers School page. Our first question is today's town hall mainly about the school reopening video you sent out earlier? The answer is yes. If you have a question for the nurse, you can always email me at jlytle@philasd.org. Excuse me, jlytle@cheltenham.org. I don't know how long I'm going to do that. jlytle@cheltenham.org. I will also type our school nurse's email address here so that you can email your questions to her directly. We have another question. Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. Can parents drop off children in the classroom? How are you handling special classes or gifted classes? Hopefully we've answered that. I'll review it quickly. Parents will not be able to drop off students at their classrooms. They must drop them off at the entry points. As we welcome students off buses, they will be greeted by a staff member. As we welcome our walkers, they will be greeted by staff members at our Mill Road stairway. And as we welcome students from the carpool lane, they will be greeted by by staff at our carpool lane. We talked about specials classes. The special teachers, such as art, music, and library, will be traveling to homeroom classrooms, and they will have the same special for 2 weeks. Gifted classes will be handled through virtual instruction, meaning that the gifted teacher, Mr. Osea, will still be delivering gifted instruction, but he will be engaging with the students who are in a variety of classrooms in each grade through a virtual format. Another question. My biggest concern is time during recess and outdoor breaks. All the students will be touching the same playground equipment during the day. That is a lot of potential exposure to COVID on my child's clothes and hands. What can be done to beef up cleaning of sanitizing of our playground equipment? I will say that that is a very valid concern, but based upon our latest science and research as relates to transmission, which I won't speak on, I'll allow Nurse Kimball to address that. The playground equipment will be sanitized weekly or routinely, and students within each classroom will only be playing with the balls or playground, balls or bats or footballs or ropes with the students in their own classroom. So Nurse Kimball, can you speak at all towards the use of playground equipment such as swings and slides and any concerns that parents might have?
The contact, and it's still just like it was before, where it fluctuates whether how long you've touched something, but being outdoors, that adds a whole other aspect to the equipment. I think we need to take into consideration that the outdoors and droplets being brought away by the wind and things like that, that even though you're touching, things are not quite as contagious almost as they are inside, I would say. We are cleaning. We've added more custodial staff, so they are cleaning these items with special disinfectants regularly to alleviate any kind of contact that there may be on this equipment, though.
Thank you, Nurse Kimball. Another question said, will teacher/classroom assignments remain the same, or should we anticipate that some children will be with different teachers? At this point, all of the 100% virtual and in-person students are with their teacher that they will be with in February. And I want to make sure that I reiterate, and I don't see it as any separate. We have 100% virtual students that we're vested in and in-person students that we're vested in. And as of this point in February, on February 1st, all students will remain with their current teacher. Next question, can a child be walked to the school some days and brought by parent vehicle on other days? Do we have to commit to one mode? You do not have to commit to one mode, but we do ask that you commit to the process for that particular means of transportation. If a child is a walker, I ask that you escort the child to the stairway on Mill Road, where they'll be welcomed by staff and escorted into the building through the class door. If the child is a carpooler, I ask that you join the carpool lane on Montgomery Avenue and maintain your child in the car until you get to the carpool drop-off portion of the car lane, where they'll be welcomed out of the car by school staff and escorted to their door of entry. Next question, what is the name of the app for the screening form? I believe it's called Qualtrics.
And just let me add, it's not a phone app. So if you're going to be looking at in your phone, it's just an application, hence the app. It is not a phone app. So just to be clear.
Thank you. Are students allowed to bring snacks and a lunch? Yes, students are allowed to bring their own lunch and a snack. However, it is worth noting that all students will have access to free lunch each and every day. Can a child be walked to the school some days and commit? We just answered that question. Thank you. What is the name of the app? We said it was called the Qualtrics app, and we said it was not a phone app. The next question is by Miss Mia Blitzen. How will we help small kindergartners to carry all of their stuff inside? I think my child may fall over with the weight of the materials and lunch in his backpack. I'm very excited to see our kindergartners for the first time. I'll just have a brief principal moment here. I know it's their first time coming to the building. It's going to be so many new things for them. We have special procedures to help them with their materials, such as our kindergarten aides being at those doors posted to walk them. And then we'll talk more about cubby usage so that they only need to bring home the materials that they need to each and every day. And we hope they don't fall over from such a heavy backpack. Will lunch be provided at school? The answer is yes, and it will be provided at no cost. Students can bring reusable water bottles. I'll restate the question. Will lunch be provided at school at no cost or cost additional? Can they bring lunch from home, and can they bring reusable water bottles? Lunch will be provided at school. Some days will be hot lunch, some days will be cold. There will be no cost for lunch, and students can bring water bottles. In fact, they are encouraged to do so. Will kindergarten have the opportunity to visit school so they can see the inside of the building with a parent prior to being dropped off on February 1st? Unfortunately, they will not. However, I will ask kindergarten teachers to post pictures of the classroom and of events that are taking place in order to bring that classroom to life for parents. Based upon the current state of the pandemic, we would typically have parents visit the classroom and have a kiss and cry and a visit and all those things, but we're unable to do them. I will ask parents to, staff members, specifically kindergarten teachers, to utilize Class Dojo to share images of the classroom with our kindergarten families. This question relates to a virtual learner. Will there be any difference for our virtual learners compared to before February? The answer should be no. Their schedule, their teacher will remain the same. Their lunchtime might vary slightly, but the crux of the schedule was intentionally kept the same in order to bring some consistency to our students and to our families. I have a question here from Miss Ott. 2 children attending Myers.
You want me to address that?
Yes, please.
The rapid antigen program that is being rolled out by the Montgomery County Health Department, our school is working in conjunction with the Montgomery County Health Department, and currently the original rollout is just for teachers who are asymptomatic and need testing. There are 2 other larger school districts that had started in August that are doing some testing in their school, but currently right now it is just for their staff and employees. So we are participating, but we are participating in conjunction with the Montgomery County Health Department, and the testing is done at the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. And currently it's just for staff and employees, not for students or families.
Thank you, Nurse Kimball. Question from Miss Rosalind D. How will you navigate the children who are asthmatic? We are very confident in our nursing staff, and we have an additional nursing presence in our building. We will continue to support students who have all types of conditions and be attentive to their needs. We ask that parents remain in consistent communication with the school as to the health of their child so that we can monitor them and support them as needed. We have a question here from Mr. Moody. Will families be able to change to all virtual if they begin as hybrid at any time? The answer is yes. Parents are able to change from in-person to virtual. They're able to change from in-person to virtual. At this time, we are not allowing parents to change from 100% virtual to in-person. Thank you, Mr. Moody. We have a question from Ms. Rawls. Has the ventilation system been checked and updated to accommodate proper ventilation? The answer to that is yes. We have a question here from Ms. Dewey Schultz. How will asynchronous in-person actually work, particularly for our youngest kids? Will students be guided through the work by an adult? We have found that attention spans for asynchronous assignments do not last that long. Will kids be able to have creative/free time during asynchronous periods as well? I want to reiterate that we understand that one size does not fit all, especially as relates to students in various grades. I am very, very confident in the ability levels and the passion for each grade level teacher to be in that particular grade. Our kindergarten teachers are skilled and certified all the way up to 4th grade, but they are phenomenal kindergarten teachers. And I say that to say that as it relates to structuring the day for the students and what the asynchronous afternoon will look like, it will be a structured time where students will engage in learning tasks that are prescribed by the teacher, aligned to the Common Core, and aligned to the instruction that is taking place. But based upon their age and their attention span, teachers will modify how that day is presented and broken up and scheduled in order to meet the needs of those children. So if we have a kindergartner, that asynchronous afternoon will look different than it would be for a 4th grader. However, they will be engaging in reading, extension, remediation, and enrichment, math, extension, remediation, and enrichment, as well as social emotional learning. It will just look different to meet the needs of that particular age of child. How will I distinguish between asthma, cough, and sniffing and COVID? I'm just going to get quiet and hope that Nurse Kimball answers that question.
Or I will answer that for you.
Thank you.
If your child has asthma, we will know that your child has asthma. Everything isn't the COVID virus. I know we're centered on that, but people have diabetes, people have asthma. So your child will come to the nursing office just like they would normally do. We'd bring them up to the nurse's office. We'd listen to their lungs. We have a pulse ox to see what their oxygen saturation is. And we would check their heart rate, their respiratory rate. And if they have asthma, we would have the asthma pump. You would know you're still going to bring in anybody who has medications when they come back hybrid. They'll still come to the nursing office and be locked up in the nursing office, and they would use their asthma pump just as before in the health room.
Thank you, Nurse Sanborn. Do parents pack snacks for kindergartners? The answer is absolutely yes. We don't want anyone to become malnourished. Miss Libby Rawls, what is the protocol should there be a positive COVID test in class? We are following the guidelines of the Montgomery County Department of Health as relates to handling all positive tests. Nurse Sanborn, would you like to address that briefly? Or Nurse Kimball? Or did I get it right?
You got it right. And if she's asking what the protocol is, we're following the health department. And what we're doing right now as a school district is if there is a close contact or positive case in a school building, we are notifying by the building. And each case is determined individually because every case is different. All close contacts are different. So there will be notifications, but if your child is in EP and the close contact is Myers, you may not get the notification in EP. It will be just for the people at Myers. So it's all done individually, but we are following protocol through the Montgomery County Health Department and how to the close contact and contact tracing information and guidance that they provide.
And I think that is an extreme positive as a parent as well, because we know the protocol there is public. You can see what exactly will be followed, and there's a sense of accountability and community as it relates to knowing how things will be handled. Thank you, Nurse Kimball. Mr. Lair gave a compliment to the Myers team. We have the best team in the world at Myers and in the Cheltenham School District. And is there anything you can do? There is a PTO meeting scheduled for January 21st at 7 o'clock. I encourage you to join that meeting to see how we can support our students at Myers. Thank you, Mr. Lair. We have a question from Mr. Daniel Gravy Thomas. Are you discouraging students from riding their bikes to school? Do you anticipate these leading to unsupervised playing and gathering? Yes, I am discouraging students from riding their bikes to school because there will be no place for them to put them on school grounds. We want to make sure that we can supervise students when they enter school grounds and keep them socially distanced. We do not have the capacity in order to have the students ride their bikes to school and do that at the same time. So yes, sir, I am discouraging them from riding their bikes to school. Ms. Libby Ross has a question. Will there be additional recess and classes outside when weather permits? Students in grades K through 2 have lunch recess as well as afternoon recess. We've already talked with teachers, in addition, for students in grades 3 and 4, for the potential for some of those breaks that students have throughout the day. And I'm not talking about the recess times. For grades 3 and 4 to be outdoors as well from time to time. So will there be additional recess and classes outside when weather permits? The answer is yes. Ms. Schultz, will they have recess during asynchronous time? Yes. Asynchronous time begins at 1:20 to 3:40, and there are recesses for K1 and 2 that begin at 1:40 each day. For grade 1, for grade K, and for grade 2, individually, separate from one another and respectively. How long will learning support classes be held? Learning support classes will be held in accordance with the number of minutes that are outlined in the individual education plans for individual students. So they will receive their supports for learning support in accordance with what is in their IEP. Thank you, Ms. Perlow. Can kindergartners eat snack during each break time? Teachers in each classroom will communicate to parents and outline snack times for each of their classrooms. Snack times will be scheduled, so you'll be able to reach out to your child's teacher and ask, when is lunch? Which is not a secret because I've shared that with you. And then what times of the day will children be permitted to eat snack in your classroom? Which will be the times when the teachers will implement the snack/mass break procedure for their students. Reach out to your teacher for your child's teacher for more details. Ms. Libby Ross has a question. Will their kids be wearing masks on the playground? The answer is yes. Ms. Lori Falk, will children be receiving homework? That is at the discretion of the teacher. A reminder that asynchronous work, the beauty of asynchronous work is that it can be completed at any time. So students, while they might not get traditional homework, they might be working on those asynchronous assignments at time outside of the 3:40 hour. Mr. Daniel Thomas, what are the contact tracing procedures if there is a breakout of COVID with students? That is a great question. What are the contact tracing procedures? One of the reasons that we are so vested in making sure that we keep students with their peers in their classrooms and as cohorts is so that we have the ability to contact trace should we need to. And should something happen where someone catch COVID, we are able to know all those people who are engaged with or in contact with those individuals. So Mr. Thomas, our cohort model, our structure for social distancing, our recess model are all geared towards allowing us to successfully contact trace and know who someone who has tested positive for COVID has come in contact with. Ms. Consuelo, will in-person and virtual students have the same teacher? How will that work? Great question. In-person and virtual students will have the same teacher. The teacher will be teaching the students in front of them and the students who are virtual at the same time through the use of technology. Students in the classroom will be able to hear the answers from their virtual peers. Students who are at home virtual will be able to hear the contributions and see the contributions of their in-person peers. So through the use of technology, the teacher will teach simultaneously our virtual learners and our in-person learners, and they will be able all to engage with one another through the use of technology. We have a question from Acosta. Will there be proper ventilation? Yes. Will there be proper ventilation for the fumes of any cleaning products that will be used throughout the course of the day? What kinds of products are being used to clean surfaces? I ask because such Lysols are very strong and give headaches. Miss Nurse Kimball, I will allow to answer this. We will not be using any bleach products. We will not be using anything that is potentially harmful, but I'll let Nurse Kimball answer that.
Actually, Dr. Lytle, I don't remember the name of it. It's a specialty disinfectant, and it's something that you leave on, and then they've been using it with all the kids during the summer or during the fall that have been in the building. It's not a standard, you buy off the shelf cleaning product. It's not a bleach, it's a specialty, high quality disinfectant. And in the meantime, we use alcohol wipes. So those are the two products that would be used for cleaning in a classroom, the disinfectant and then soap and water just for cleaning.
Thank you very much. And that is a very important question because
and Dr. Lytle, I can find out for Mr. Teasdale the name so I could forward it to you so you can give them the name of the brand.
Thank you. And I will add that to our FAQ. Thank you for that question. We don't want to solve one problem and create another problem. Solve the problem of disinfecting by creating another problem of not being able to breathe. So thank you for that question. What will the procedures be in case a child is exposed outside of school? Who will communicate with their child's classmates? What will the procedure be in case a child is exposed outside of school? Who will communicate with their child's classmates? Well, that is part of the reason why it is so critical that we complete the health screener each day. That health screener has a series of questions that will be able to inform our school nurse and school community, our school nurse and school nursing staff as to any exposure or any symptoms that each child may have. And that answers to that screener will be utilized in order to give instruction to parents related to what steps they need to take.
In addition, Mr. Lytle, if a parent has a child that is exposed or is positive, please contact your building nurse so we can guide you, and just so we're aware of who in our buildings have our close contacts that may happen in the community. We do appreciate that.
Thank you. And I will stress again that communication is essential. Thank you, Nurse Kimball, for stating that. We need to know. The more than we know, the more we can prepare. So thank you. Presentation was informative. I do have one question. Will class program be returning in February? Based upon the information that I received from the Ed Affairs meeting that just took place, I believe that there will not be class based upon the insufficient staffing that we have and the need for us to have a certain amount of staff in order to maintain the required student to staff ratio. What will be the protocol if there is a positive case in the classroom? Hopefully we've answered that. We are following the Montgomery County Department of Health procedures for addressing all positive cases in the classroom and following communication guidelines to make sure that all parties who have come in contact with that positive case are informed and know exactly what it is that they should do. If hybrid isn't working, well, can we switch back? Yes. If a parent wants to switch their child from in-person to virtual, they have that ability to do so. But at this time, we're not switching from virtual to in-person. In-person to virtual, yes. Virtual to in-person, not at this time, no. Thank you for that question. Will schedule for related services, OT, PT, et cetera, remain the same? We hope that that schedule will remain the same. Well, let me stop. The schedule will change slightly, and then you'll get that schedule change directly from Miss Mazzullo or Miss Coogan or your related service provider. They will be able to give you that schedule well in advance of February 1st so that you can plan accordingly. What is the procedure if someone tests positive for COVID? How will the students in the class be impacted? Will class be moved to a virtual for a period of time? If someone tests positive, we will follow the Montgomery County Department of Health procedures. If there is a positive test, Ms. Kimball can attest that there is a certain procedure that must be followed as it relates to the student quarantining for a certain amount of time, communication with families, and it might be necessary for that class to stay home for a period of time as well. Nurse Kimball, would you like to address that at all?
Typically what we've done is if there is a close contact or positive in a classroom, we shut down the classroom, we go virtual for a period of time. Right now, the current guidelines are quarantined for 10 days. So typically that has been our, what we follow for protocol. It used to be 14, but it's now 10 days for quarantine or a quarantine and isolation are both 10 days now.
And I thank you for answering that, Nurse Kimball. I want to encourage you all to visit the Montgomery County Department of Health guidelines, which are our barometer and our precedent for what we'll be following, as well as the Cheltenham School District's health and safety plan. We recognize as a school that we will have to be very diligent in our communication and our processes with parents, and we will err on the side of over communicating in order to make sure that everyone stays informed. Will special needs children in kindergarten be allowed outside for playtime? Absolutely. Will class be returning? We said that no. Based upon the most recent information that we received at this evening's educational affairs meeting, class will not be returning in February. Someone wanted to say thank you for everything that we are doing. I want to say thank you to the parents. You guys are awesome, and we really do believe in our Myers community. Will school close if number of COVID cases in our community rise above a certain level? That question can be answered by only one, and that is Dr. Marseille, who is our school superintendent. Nurse Sanborn or Nurse Kimball, would you like to delve into answering that question?
Actually, there is a algorithm that the Montgomery County Health Department follows, and actually, it's not only by community; it's in per our building, so they're both. I don't have the slide in front of me. It's part of our health and safety plan, the revision one I know of. But if a building gets above a certain percentage, or if the community gets above a certain percentage, the Montgomery County Health Department would then shut it down. So
let me address that briefly. And thank you, Nurse Kimball. Based upon our school size, the Montgomery Department of Health has 3 different models for a small, a medium, and a large size school. Our school, because we have 500 or less students, falls into the medium-sized school. And based upon the number of cases of COVID, it mandates us between 1 and 5 cases, 5 and 14 cases, over 14 cases to take certain action in accordance with that plan. We will be following that plan, and based upon that direction, if the cases reach over a certain number, we will take the action that corresponds with that number of cases. You can send lunch, you can send lunch with your child. You can send snacks if you choose. Free lunch will be provided. Great question. Thank you from Miss Leslie and Genesis B. Will all children be temperature checked upon entering? No, they will not. Should we send any individual wipes for our kids to keep at their desk? No, you should not, but you can send hand sanitizer with your child. We don't recommend that you send any cleaning products in with your child based on the fact that we'll be using specific disinfectants in order to make sure that we clean surfaces and rooms effectively, but we do encourage you to send hand sanitizer. Thank you for that question. Thank you for your encouragement from Mr. Daniel Thomas. Ms. Blisson, if a child is exposed or suspected positive, are all children in that cohort to become virtual for 2 weeks? The answer is yes.
Actually, it's 10 days, but it is all the children in the same cohort. It's a 10-day quarantine for all children in the same cohort.
I'll say that again. If a child is exposed or suspected positive, are all children in that cohort to become virtual for 2 weeks? The answer is yes, but it's actually 10 days. And we will be very communicative with you, and we will over communicate as much as we possibly can. Great question. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Lorraine and Mr. Thoder. Do you have details about how students will be commuting on the school bus? You can direct all questions regarding school bus transportation to Jim Custer, who is the Director of Transportation. He will be able to give you any guidelines about or any information about pickup times, pickup location, or safety procedures and protocols on school buses. Once again, his name is Mr. Jim Custer. He can be reached at jcuster@cheltenham.org, and I will put his information in our FAQ. And we have our last question. What percentage of kids are coming back to the school in person? We have 157 kids coming back in person, 144 students virtual. That's about a 50-50 split Great question from Miss Libby Rawls. At this time, I would like to thank you all for all of your questions and all of your time. I want to be respectful of the hour. We're just a little bit over our amount of time, but I think based upon the amount of information that we were able to cover, based upon the questions that we were able to answer, I feel like we were able to utilize this time successfully. I would like to remind parents that this video in its entirety can be found on the Myers website as well as the Cheltenham School District website once it has a chance to be published. I also want to remind you that we have another town hall which will review this same information on January 28th at 7:00 p.m. We will turn around all of the critical questions into an FAQ within the next 24 to 48 hours so that there can be a published document with these essential questions. And as always, I can be reached by Class Dojo or via email at jlytle@cheltenham.org. With that, I would like to thank our panelists, Ms. Kimball Dunlap, Ms. Nancy Sanborn, and Ms. Carly Siegel for joining us this evening. And I would like to thank you, parents, for partnering with us for the safety and success of your child. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and thank you.